This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, August 15th, 2023. This is the regular August meeting of the Davenport Public Library Board of Trustees. We're meeting in Meeting Room C at the Davenport Public Library, Maine. My name is Steve Imming, President of the Board of Trustees, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is roll call. Amanda?
Here.
Thank you. Joe Heinrichs?
Here.
Terry Cooper?
Yes, here.
Judy Lance?
Here.
Thank you. And myself, Steve Imming, are here. We're expecting Tom Engelman and Laura Guinness, so we will welcome them when they arrive. Also attending the meeting today is Jeff Collins, Library Director, Lexi Reiling, Assistant Library Director, Jennifer Williams, HR Operations Manager, Tracy Moore, Development Officer, Casey Shipley, Recorder, and Marion McGinnis, our City Council Liaison. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Thank you, Judy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe. Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call for the vote. On the motion to approve the consent agenda, Amanda?
Yes.
Thank you. Judy?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Thank you. And my own vote is yes, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public with comment. There's be no one here for public comment, so we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is reports and communications. First item there is the Friends. Jeff, do you have something for the Friends?
Thank you, Steve. So Heidi is the current president. She indicated that she was going to try to make it to today's meeting. Wasn't sure if she's going to be able to, so she did share a couple of things. She wanted to cover that the Friends group is working on increasing their Friends membership and increasing awareness of the ways that the community can donate. They're also looking at trying to find ways to get monthly recurring donations as well as part of the annual fundraising campaigns. We'll have an update in the children's area. They are going to be sending out RFPs for investments, so stay keep your eyes open for that process that they'll do in theory every 5 years or so. And they're also going to be looking at sending out RFPs for insurance as well in the near future. I think that was everything passed on from the Friends.
Okay. Thank you. So I'd like to recognize Laura Guinness has moved, joined the meeting, I should say. And next item on the agenda under reports and communications are committee reports. Personnel Committee, Amanda, you have anything?
Nothing from the Personnel Committee this month.
Okay, thank you. I have a report for Malavika, who was unable to be here because of work conflict. She says that she is going to attend public library board meetings whenever her schedule permits. The goal of attending these board meetings is not just to promote our library, but to foster meaningful connections, collaborative opportunities, and the overall growth and development of the entire library community. She says by forming connections with trustees from other libraries, we can strengthen the collective voice advocating for libraries at local, regional, and even national levels. A united front of trustees can lead to more effective advocacy efforts and increased support for libraries. Maybe in the near future, we can arrange for a get-together of trustees from the region. I plan to go across the river as well to do this outreach. What can we gain from this? Knowledge sharing, collaboration, networking, diverse perspectives, advocacy, professional development, problem solving, innovation, mutual support, community impact, fellowship, and friendship. She said, I was at the Clare Public Library trustee meeting on August 8th. It was great to meet all and to introduce all of us at DPL. August 28th is a special meeting of the Eldridge Public Scott County Library system. After consulting with Tricia, who I believe is the director, it would be better for me, well, I guess I'm not sure yet. It would be better for me to be there next month, September 25th at noon. The next one on my list is Bettendorf Public Library, which meets on September 14th. She said, I'll be at the farmer's market on September 2nd, but as a Figgy Friends volunteer, they are sharing our resources, that meaning a table at the market. Of course, I will be advocating for both the library and the museum. And she said that today is the Presidential Assembly Day at St. Ambrose, and regrets not being able to join us. Malvika and I had spoken some time ago about meeting with other library boards in the area, and so that'd be a good thing to do. And so if anybody has interest in joining her, I've started a list of when they meet. I don't have that with me. So anyway, when I get that put together, I'll spread that around. And like I say, if there's an opportunity, just be interesting to meet with them and get to know them. Okay, circling back around under committee reports, Tom, anything from finance?
It's just that we got annual, the entire year, fiscal year budget recap. And then there was also one for the first month of the next year. And the budget numbers for the annual, more or less were very good. There were a few items, the software costs, which had been running high, and a few other items. But overall, we were at 98% of our city appropriation, which I thought was pretty darn good. For the month, we're only 8% of the year, and our expenses were running very close to that.
Thank you. Any questions on any of the committee reports? Moving on then, next item under reports and communications is the director's report. Jeff, anything there you want to add or amplify to what you're provided in the packet?
Thanks, Steve. Just a couple of things to add on to in addition to what was included in the report. The first is just a notification that we did receive a request for reconsideration of library materials form for a title in the young adult collection, which was called House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig. And the complainant indicated that they requested that the item be moved from the YA section to the adult fiction section for topics of overt to graphic sexual nature inappropriate for low end of YA genre. We implemented the collection development policy, and the title was reviewed by the library director, assistant director, youth services supervisor, and information services supervisor. We looked at the context for the appropriateness of the item in the library's collection and specific placement within the YA fiction section. That review also included reading through the request, supporting documentation provided by the complainant, the intended audience that was listed by the publisher, passages of the book, published reviews of the work by legitimate sources, and then placement of the item in other public library catalogs, both locally and nationally. And based on that analysis, the complainant's request was denied. The complainant received a written response and information was provided to them on the appeal process, which for the board as a reminder, they would need to then provide a written request to the Library Board of Trustees. And if that does occur, then we would discuss it. It would be based on an agenda item at a next meeting and then discuss it at that meeting. So just to make sure that the board is all aware of that particular request.
Any questions on the process?
I had one question, and this is just curiosity. What is the qualification for making a complaint? Is it, do you have to live in Davenport? Does you have to be a resident of Davenport, or?
Correct, yeah, that's a
Okay.
good question. There is a criteria listed within the policy, and that is one of those, is a Davenport resident.
What are the others, though?
The other items, they have to complete the form.
Oh, okay, so, but the residency thing is, there's no outside that, it's, you live in the city.
That's what the
Right.
policy
Got it,
states.
okay,
yeah.
cool, all right, thank you.
What was the title again?
House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig. And it's part of a series, I believe. No, not a series.
Look at that.
She's published a couple of other books, but not a series.
If that, they request that we review the denial, at that point, would we then get the information that you guys accumulated? In other words, for example, where it's placed in other libraries, stuff like that, for us to make our decision?
Yeah, great question. We would also provide any additional information, including the copy of the form, a copy of any supporting documentation that the complainant provided. Also, any background information that we did on that, we would include as well, and any written correspondence with the complainant, and that would all be included with the packet. And I believe that Steve has received all that information to this point.
Thank you.
Has this particular book been controversial anywhere else?
Not to my knowledge. Yeah, not to my knowledge.
Never seen that.
This particular one did not appear in any lists of banned books that we looked at or any other areas. It was an interesting choice. A textbook example of how to go about the process on providing information on for the library to reconsider this. They did a really great job with the form, and they provided 7 pages of documentation. They returned the book that they had borrowed, and they included individual tabs as well on the specific passages that they had expressed concern with. And oftentimes, it might be a struggle to get a patron that's complaining about something that they want to reconsider to even complete a form. So they did a wonderful job, and it was really good to have that.
There is a second book, but it's called House of Roots in Ruin, but I don't even know if that's out there. No, it's the same one. It's like a, it's like, yes, it's like, yeah, Scissors of the Salt is the overriding thing, I guess. But I don't even know if that's it.
Just curious, do we have any idea on the background of the petitioner?
No, that's not something we look at.
I didn't know if it came in the petition, like I was reading this book with my kid and I felt it was objectionable, or
So,
I heard about this through the internet and I would. Just curious.
I believe they read it and felt that it wasn't appropriate. Yes. Okay, as you know, Maine has been through the ringer. So the streets, 4th Street and Main Street have been closed for a period of time, obviously. 4th Street's now fully up and operational, which is great. I also informed you that Main Street was up and operational again, and then they closed it, and then they opened it again, and they closed it again, and now it's closed again, I believe, at different parts. We did have to evacuate the building 2 weeks ago because of a gas line rupture that was related to the construction that was being done at South and Main for the new apartment complex that's going up there. Was not our fault, but we did have to evacuate the building for a little over an hour. And then last Friday, Iowa American Water was in the process of repairing and capping the water main that went to 324 Main to make sure the water doesn't go there anymore, since you don't need water there anymore. And we had to close the building at that point. Then they did it again on Monday, yesterday as well. We were working on trying to improve communication and try to get notification from them. We're not sure where the breakdown was, why they didn't tell us in advance, other than it reportedly went to an employee that no longer works here, and we're not sure some of the specifics on that. They did notify us yesterday, so that's good. It was still only about an hour's notice. The takeaway is that Maine has had to close a lot for a lot of reasons, and none of them are related to library operations. It's all been things that have impacted the library from external factors.
So that it looks like the street is being dug up in front of the new building, is that?
That is correct. Today, right now, they're digging up a portion of it, kind of catering up to where the library is. So it's still closed at the moment.
They'll be digging up the back, right? What's another?
Right. In really exciting news, though, we do have, we're making really good progress with the Enhanced Children's Areas Project. And on December 2nd, we will have a ribbon cutting ceremony and a grand opening that we're able to tie to an author event. Children's author illustrator Jan Brett is going to be here. She was here about 8 or 10 years ago. So we're going to have her here again on December 2nd. And that's a Saturday. It'll be at Eastern. And we're actually going to have a children's event in the morning and then a little bit later in the morning. So at 10 o'clock, we will have the author event and then a signing. So she'll do a presentation and then a book signing. And then at 11:30, the German American Heritage Center, we're partnering with them to provide a program on winter traditions for adults, which ties in really nicely with a lot of Jan Brett's work. And then at 12:15, we'll have a ribbon cutting ceremony for that new space. So we'll have some cake on hand, and we'd love for all the board to be there if possible, and to share that information with your networks and invite as many people as you'd like to. Once we have a little bit more details finalized, we get a little bit closer to the date, we'll send out official invitations and other items. But we're real excited to be able to do that and to have that celebration that day. For Fairmount at 2:15, we'll also have something similar, but on a much smaller scale. We'll just have some cookies and invite the public to come into that space and enjoy it as well. So some really cool things that are happening there. And then the last thing is a business services program that's going to be launching in a couple of weeks. We also have a couple of new business resources that the community can use. One is Gale Business Plan Builder, and the other is LinkedIn Learning. And both of them are really good resources for the community, not just the business community, but job seekers, people that are looking to develop resumes, develop their skills. We'll actually be able to use it within the library for some of our employees as well, and we're real excited about that.
So I'm familiar with LinkedIn, the software, the application, but Gale Business is new to me. Is that a software as well, or is that a codified training program? What is Gale Business?
Good question. That's a database that also has access to create your own business plan. So this will be really good for some of the entrepreneurs and individuals in the community that might be looking to develop and start a business, where the library will position itself to be a gateway to that. So we're going to be working with other partners in the community as a funnel to get people into the Small Business Development Center, into the chamber, into Downtown Denver Partnership, as that kind of wheelhouse, as the kind of opening. Because a lot of times what will happen is somebody will go to the chamber and say, hey, I want to start this business. Can you help me? And the chamber will be like, well, sure. What's your concept? Do you have a business plan, et cetera? And now what they can do is refer back to us, and then we can help develop that at the very base level and then move them back up. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? The only other thing to point out is on the last 2 pages, there's a lot of really fun programs and events that are coming up. I encourage you to look at those, see if you can attend some, and share with your networks as well.
Jeff, what time is Fairmont open on Saturdays? Is it open?
9
before
o'clock.
9? Okay.
Yeah.
Got family outing.
Perfect.
I guess going back to this question on Jen Brett, is she going to be at Fairmont at 2:15?
No, she will not be a Fairmont at 2:15. No, yeah, good question. She's just gonna be there for the presentation and then a book signing, and then at Easter, and then she'll leave. We believe that she might leave around noon or so. We're not sure. Might be a little bit sooner, might be a little bit later. She does have to get to another state. She's on a tour. We're gonna have a 45-foot bus there, wrapped with her artwork.
Yep. I remember.
Yeah, very, really cool.
Yeah, she's a big draw. Last time she was here.
And thank you to our youth services team that coordinated getting that set up.
Oh, reminds me too, I did look at that Gale business resource, and there were 3 buttons, and one of them had to do with starting a nonprofit. And one of the items in there was how to create your bylaws. And I clicked on that, but then I had to register. And it only had a few minutes, and it was kind of a large, and I never got back to it, so I haven't checked it out. Looked interesting. Okay.
What does Fulton Hemlock look like?
Queen Anne's lace, apparently. Queen Anne's lace, I think.
Can somebody describe what it looks like?
Yeah, it looks just like Queen Anne's. I was just looking it up because Queen Anne's lace, there's wild parsnip, Queen Anne's lace, and hemlock. And apparently hemlock has a stem, so Queen Anne's lace stem all the way up is kind of hairy. That's the white puffy stuff, you know what that looks like, right? Queen Anne's lace. So, but hemlock has purplish dots on its stem, and that's the different. I mean, they look pretty similar. And then there's something called wild parsnip, which is will cause blister. That looks like Queen Anne's lace. The Queen Anne's lace is wild carrot. I think. Wild parsnip is, kind of a carrot. But anyway, there's 3 different things, but the hemlock is the one that's the most serious, I guess.
Yeah, that looks kind of like that white.
That's Queen Anne's. Oh, that's the thing we know that has many, many tiny little flowers. On a head, it kind of is shaped like a diamond.
We have some in the backyard.
Well,
What you that every year, but.
we'll check the stem, and if it's got
Got little
purplish
purple
dots.
berries.
No, you're talking about sumac. That's different.
I'll
There-
go.
If you Google Queen Anne's lace wild hemlock, and it'll show a comparison. So that's probably the best way.
Just got this
Spend it online. I'm curious. So I'm looking at all my Queen Anne's lace going, is that wild hemlock? So,
Okay. Next item under reports and communications is council liaison. Anything going on with the city council? that affects the
well, a
library?
couple of things. The contract, we are voting this cycle on the contract to begin the study on the silent crossings at the Canadian Pacific crossings downtown. So this is a complicated process, but this is the first step in starting to look at there are, requirements, there's approvals because we're crossing state highways, federal, railroad, all this stuff. So it's complicated. But this is the first step. So I don't know when that might be coming to us, but as I had said last time, it was expected, and now this is actually the first shoe has dropped. And so with the goal of having silent crossings at all crossings that remain at grade, which are Marquette through Mount Street. So it's not just the downtown, it's all the way across. Concord will have an elevated road, and that's how that will be dealt with. And that will also be elevated around the water pollution control plant, and will kind of help us with flooding over there. So that is actually starting. So it's good to get that going. Main Street Landing, this is new, and I just found out about this yesterday, but Friday and Saturday, so the Main Street Landing project has been one that's been, I was 50 when I went to my first meeting about what is now Main Street Landing, or in my 50s. And so it is, the area that has been vacated, was vacated by when the boat moved, and the discussions have gone on. So and most recently, discussion was about the children's playground, but as I think I mentioned in another meeting, we were able to take those dollars, the Canadian Pacific the state allowed us to include all of the silent crossing, the Canadian Pacific money for all of the silent crossings, and we put that together to get the remaining money from the state. It was, I think, $6 million for Destination Iowa grant, and that was last fall, I guess. And so we are now moving forward with the build out of Main Street Landing. Will not just be the playground, but also most of the other part of that area. And to cut further to the chase, Sasachi was hired to do to not come to us with, here's the design, but to organize all of that. I mean, they will be doing designing, but on Friday and Saturday of this week, they will be down with boards at the Freight House. There's a lot of stuff going on this weekend, alternating currents, there's a ball game, there's of course the farmer's market. And so they will be there with, what are you interested in doing on the riverfront? So you'll be able, people, and it's the public engagement, it's the face-to-face public engagement part of this, to, select what you're interested in, what kind of water features, do you want water features, do you want this, do you want that, what do you want it to feel and look like? So this is a chance for input, and it's a big weekend in the downtown area, so it's a good time to be doing this. But please take time to go down. There will be other online opportunities also to participate in this process, but this is the face-to-face. And so that's Friday and Saturday. And so that's moving forward, which is exciting. And then the other thing that was announced on Monday, which really doesn't have necessarily to do with this group, but I just wanted you to know about it, is the 2023 Dream Project was launched. This is up to $20,000 for existing and new homeowners in what is defined as the Dream area, which is most of the area south of Locust from Bridge over to about Division, and then a section south from 9th Street south going, to the edge of town. And it's up to $20,000. It's mostly for facade improvements. This is the 5th time for the regular Dream. There is no need for a match. The city works with the recipients there is no income guideline for this, so it's not you have to be at a certain level of income, which is nice, but it's most of the dollars only deal with, moderate income. And that's good too, but this allows more people to play. But also new homeowners, so there's dollars set aside for new homeowners moving into that area, because the point is, of course, revitalization. So that is launched, but it is only a 15-day window. So if you know anybody who lives in that area, then please tell them to, make application, and then the city will come back. The way this project works is that the city will work with the people to find contractors. They don't have to use city contractors, but they'll find people, and then the city pays the contractor directly, so the people are not at the mercy of a contractor that might not be doing what they should. We know some contractors are very good, but they are paid directly by the city, and they don't get paid until the work is done. So people aren't sort of left hanging that way, and the city is assured that the work is done correctly. And there's no money, so the homeowner never has to put any money out and get reimbursed as well.
What are the dates for those apps?
Now through September 1st. Application is online. Go online and type in the search Dream Project, and you'll find it all there. There's everything from a map to the application. If you have any other questions, I suggest that you call the staff directly. I have reached out. I feel like it's kind of a very narrow window, and said, why? I haven't heard back, but that was my question. So that doesn't mean they'll expand it. We try. In any case, but if you know people you're not in that area and you know people in that area, people, and now the dollars for the new homeowners tend to last longer because they're not sitting there with a house ready to go. So those have tended to last over a number of months. So if you know someone interested in moving into that area, but they're not moved in yet, you know, again, there's no guarantee of how long those dollars last, but they have lasted like 5 or 6 months, many years, because people are not, you know, they're not immediately, you know, so if in the next 6 months, you know of somebody that's moving into the dream area, tell them to call me and I'll get them to the right people. Because it's, you know, that money lasts a little longer. It's a very competitive project because people really enjoy it.
The homes have to be owner occupied.
Yes, they're it's owner occupied.
You can't invest in these homes.
No, nope, it's owner
You
occupied.
have to be there at least 5 years
Right, exactly.
after it's done.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Has your company worked with any of these projects?
No, but they're working on my house.
Oh, cool. Oh, you got it. Oh, cool. Okay, so you know how you could tell.
Yeah, I'm the issue.
You're the issue, okay.
They're waiting for me to get some stuff done, but yes.
Good. Okay, very good. Okay, then that's everything I got. Unless somebody has any questions?
Question? Oh, I have a question. Not about anything you reported, but has the council received any information about the legislation that was passed in the last session about property tax reduction?
No, not that I know of. Not that I know of.
Okay. Okay, moving on then, the old business. The first item there is a motion to approve changes to the sex offender policy. We discussed that at our last meeting. There were a few, I would say, minor changes to that. And I say we discussed that at the last meeting, so we entertain a motion to approve those changes.
Move to approve the changes to the sex offender policy.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Craig. Have a motion and a second to approve the changes to the sex offender policy. Is there any discussion? Yes, Jeff.
Just one thing to clarify, there was one change since you did look at this previously, and that was the second part in the paragraph that starts persons barred from. The DEI team had taken a look at this policy through their lens and recommended that we change the word courier to something else, either third party or what we put in here was someone else. They felt that courier made it sound like they might have to hire someone or something that was just kind of more formal than the typical situation of what we have, which is just sending a friend or family member to pick up those items. So we made that change as well.
Any other discussion?
One question, have there been any exceptions asked for this policy? Are you aware of?
No, I've been contacted one time during my tenure, and I did not approve that exception.
Okay. I mean, I'm glad that people are still able to use the library services, even though they have had this issue, but, okay.
Any other questions?
From a practical standpoint, I'm just thinking about logistics. The library would only know if an individual self-disclosed their status as a convicted person, correct?
Correct, yeah, as a registered sex offender, we don't have any way of knowing otherwise. Yeah,
Just making sure, and I know that they're obligated to,
correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
just understanding, thank you.
yeah, and I could provide a clarifying example or an illustrative example of how that plays out in real life. We had an individual that registered to a session to meet with our library social worker, and they came in, this actually occurred today. They came in to meet with her for that meeting and then disclosed during the process of the meeting that they were a registered sex offender. So then the social worker appropriately handled the situation and inform them of what they have to do per the law, and then escorted them out of the building, but provided information with them so that they can continue to receive library service in other ways, just can't be on premises. So that was kind of an example for how you mentioned how these things usually come up or come about.
Yet another example of how important that social worker is.
Anything else? Good discussion. Okay. So no other discussion, we'll call to a vote. The motion to approve the sex offender policy.
Excuse me, one more question. The example you just gave, the situation that just occurred, would that be considered a violation that would be reported to law enforcement? I mean, I'm just asking.
Typically, that would be a violation of our policy. That
Okay.
would say, but usually what we do is we try, because this person came in specifically to meet with the social worker, we clarified with them what the expectations were and what the law was, and that was not reported to law enforcement.
Okay.
That was an administrative exception based on those circumstances in the specific situation,
Okay.
which we believe would be appropriate in this manner. Because we do want people to use our resources, we want people to come in and use the resources and assistance the social worker can provide. But once we determine that there was an issue, then obviously she handled that appropriately.
So, okay, now back to vote on the motion to approve changes in the sex offender policy. Laura?
Approved.
Judy?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Greg? Yes. Amanda?
Yes.
I heard. I
Can you
saw
hear
her
me?
say-
Oh, yes. Vote yes? Okay. Shaking your head, thank you. And my own vote is yes, motion carries. Next item of old business is approval of amending the bylaws to specify that the board president is the spokesperson for the full board. Entertain a motion to that. We talked about this also at the last meeting. Is there a motion?
I move the amended bylaws.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Judy. Have a motion and a second to approve amending the bylaws to specify that the board president is the spokesperson for the full board. Great discussion. We just say that this is, make the president the spokesman for the full board, as it says. That's obviously not to preclude any individual board member from stating their own feelings about something, just as far as who speaks for the board. So, if there's no other questions or comments, call for the vote. Judy?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Thank you. Laura?
Yes.
And my own vote is yes, motion carries. Moving on then to new business. First item there is a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025 business plan. I have such a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. Oops. Is there any discussion? Yes, Jeff.
So just a summary on what this is that we're looking at and approving is all departments within the city of Davenport, as part of the budgeting process, generate what's referred to as a business plan. And this is for fiscal year 2025, which is not going to start until July 1, 2024 and run through June 30th, 2025. And each department is required to complete this. It includes a summary of the department, the core services, some general operating statistics, generally 2 to 3 strategic goals, and a list of some strategic projects And for our purposes, because it is difficult to predict and set some of the benchmarks in advance, this does overlap a little bit with some of our current initiatives, in particular, our strategic plan, which runs from 2022 through 2024. So it's going to cover 6 months of this business plan, but not the entire period of the business plan. So that's just some context on what this is.
And we've also mentioned that this obviously was in the packet, but the reason we didn't discuss this at a previous meeting is that this always seems to come about 2 weeks before our board meeting, and they want it right away. And so we take it up at the next board meeting. We can, and ask them for.
City was okay with it though.
And it's the way it's always been as far as I could remember. It's always been a rush thing. Anyway, any other questions, comments, discussion on the business plan? Call for the vote on the motion to approve the fiscal year 2025 business plan. Joe?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Laura?
Yeah.
Judy?
Yes.
And my own vote is yes, motion carries. Thank you. And the other item under new business is discussion of the meeting rooms policy. Can you offer on that, Jeff?
Sure. So this particular policy is called the use of meeting rooms policy and addresses how the public can use our meeting rooms at each of our facilities. It's a long-running policy. It's been in place since the early 1970s. This particular version, we're proposing a lot of significant changes to the way it is written and what it covers. And the biggest one is to also open it up so that we're providing our meeting rooms for more than just nonprofits and individual users. It will also be for the business community. So I provide a little bit of background information in the memo about the business services program that we're in the process of launching. And then some of the benefits on how updating the meeting rooms policy over the next couple of months would impact our library. We believe it's going to better support our mission and our vision. Hopefully position the library as being a bit friendlier to the business community, meet a need in the community for spaces. We don't believe it's going to increase too much strain on our current operations. We believe it'll bring more people into the facilities, including many people that may be in a position to support the library financially or through advocacy in the future. It will create a small source of revenue. Nonprofits would still be available to use the rooms for free. There would be no charges with that. And then just further demonstrating our value and positioning the library as that third space in the community. It is in alignment with our strategic plan, and then also a mention about the City of Davenport Customer Survey report, which had indicated that only 51% of respondents to that report had indicated that they visited a Davenport library facility within the last 12 months. And allowing the use of our meeting rooms will bring more people into the community and hopefully result in more visits to the library as well. Usually when people are inside our facilities, then we see tangential effects as well, because then generally they'll be interested in getting a library card. They might check out materials. They might attend some of our programs. So generally we'll see a spike or an increase in circulation and then also attendance as well. So that's a summary of the policy.
Laura?
So am I understanding correctly that right now only nonprofit organizations can reserve the meeting room and there's no cost? And
That
we're
is correct.
expanding the scope of who can rent the room, but we're charging a fee for anyone that's using it for a professional or commercial activity.
So I had sent an email I don't know if anybody saw it. 'cause
I read it.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, my question is, in reading it, and I understand the intent of this, of course, but my question is, technically, if a group of students wanted to have a study group in here, they couldn't do it. Because there's no educational component, and there's another one that occurred to me after that as well. So, and, you know, it tweaked my interest because literally, this was the only place in the city that I could book a room that had allowed me for my thesis, which is a business purpose. Would you consider that? I mean, it was an educational purpose. I couldn't really do it. I couldn't do it at City Hall. That's a conflict of interest. It would have been an enormous, just awkward. I can't do that. I don't do things like that. I'm by the book. So at home would have been awkward because one of the people was here. So that's not it, but Hall or somewhere else, but that wasn't the case. This was literally the only place in the city I could come. And I asked, is it okay? Because I wasn't sure. They said, sure, that's fine. And it wasn't because it was me, because it was okay. That really isn't covered under here. The other thing is that and this is a really, I don't know if this ever happens, but, if people are interviewing for jobs, individuals are interviewing for jobs, sometimes they're doing those things remotely now, as we know, right? They talk to people first remotely, and this may be for an individual, an opportunity. I mean, this would exclude an individual who is a job seeker from using this room. And I don't know, do we want to do that or not? I mean,
Well,
So-
so those are weird things.
They wouldn't
but
be
the things that happen.
excluded, they'd have to pay.
Yes, they have.
No. Yeah, so.
See, that's what I'm, so,
That,
yeah,
there's no change to the policy for what you just described.
but it's not in here. If I read this, if I read this before if I had read this policy, and I think I did read the policy, and I called and said, is this an okay purpose? Because it was not there. We talk about groups, but we don't talk about individuals, and that may be part of the challenge. And we don't talk about educational things, or, you know what I mean? So there may be
Yeah,
a
number
little bit,
6 needs to be
yeah,
tweaked.
and so it would seem talks about for-profit, not-for-profit, commercial, which if I were like having to apply for a job and needed a place, I might go, oh, well, I can't do it because it's
Yeah, I thought
kind
you
of
did.
commercial, so it just doesn't speak to that
We
kind of
can
weird little
definitely add
niche.
language to 6 to make sure it's clear that it's the public. But this doesn't
Yeah.
change what currently was there.
Right, and I didn't, and I
Well, it
called
kinda
and
does,
asked without,
It changed,
Respectfully, sorry.
Yeah.
I would argue that in the past, because I had similar experience when I was working on my CFP credentials, where I used the meeting rooms and sometimes reserved them in advance and sometimes dropped in. And never once did anyone on staff ask me what I was using the meeting room for. Now, perhaps me being me, I just explained it in advance. But now we're putting our staff in a position where they have to police the reason for using the meeting room and decide whether or not to charge people.
they
And I
currently are
know-
doing that because it's currently prohibited for a for-profit to use the meeting rooms. That's what this is changing. That's
But an
what it
individual
distills
can
down.
use it.
but it doesn't say anything, it just talks about groups, that's all the
Sure,
language is
Yeah, we can add
amended
it
to
so
talk
it's
about.
more than just groups, because
I thought a group would be more than one person, so I thought that would be okay with what you.
But it does, because you don't talk about individuals doesn't mean it's okay, it's like individuals aren't even here.
No, but I was talking about the example you gave about the group of people you were getting together for your thesis.
No, this was my
on-
committee, and there was me and one other person, but I'm not a not-for-profit, it wasn't a not-for-profit purpose, it wasn't a for-profit purpose really either. It's a purpose that you don't cover, that's my point, and I think Laura's maybe too, is sort of like and I know you don't mean to exclude that, it just, I may have tried to read the policy and was confused by it, and maybe that's why I called, and they said, yeah, but policy doesn't tell me you're welcome to do this. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So it's just, if we're gonna have a policy, can we include,
I saw the group of people you were talking about as a group, not an organization, so that's what I thought.
I read it as anybody can use it. It's just a matter of whether or not you're a for-profit, whether or not you will be charged. So everybody has access to it. Whether it's a group of students or John Deere meeting or Churches United. Everybody has access to it, but John Deere will be charged for it where the others probably will not. And that would be on the staff to decide, correct?
Correct. And that's currently how it exists. The only thing that this primarily changes is that we will allow them to use it now. Whereas before we were discriminating against businesses. We were telling businesses they couldn't use the space. And now we are saying they can use it, but they're gonna have to pay a fee.
So I would go on record and ask the minutes reflect that I think we need to expand number 6 to specifically include individuals. I think that we need to provide some language on the example that you gave, that I just referred someone else to the library that was doing a job interview and thinking about where could they do a quiet place to do a Zoom job interview. And I think we need to decide if we're gonna, to me, that feels like a commercial activity. I would hate to see the library charge someone $50 to use the meeting room to do a job interview, so I think we need to address that. And I think that numbers 9 and 11 are redundant. Yeah, so the last sentence in 9, rooms must be left clean in the default setup and ready for the next user, is basically the same as 11, unless I'm misreading the red lines here. But I strongly hope that,
What was the other, what?
the last sentence is in 9 is the first, same as the first sentence in 11. But I would strongly hope that we don't land on a place where we're gonna charge people that are using a meeting room for a job interview, and I don't see right now that that's clarified in the policy.
Are you more concerned about the person applying for the job or the person hiring?
That's a great question.
Should a company be charged to bring in 4 or 5 people for interviews?
I hadn't thought about it from that
If the
perspective.
company's setting it up, yes. If the person's setting it up, no.
I don't see
How do we
a
make that-
person, I don't see a person coming in to use the facility for an interview as a for-profit.
Right.
However, I see the employer is a for-profit, and there's where the distinction is.
And that would most likely be okay from the study room. That's a kind of a great idea, a use for the study room. For the meeting rooms, which tend to be a little bit larger, we could definitely allow that of the first part where it's an individual coming in to use the space, but the meeting rooms are generally intended for more than one person, whenever possible.
And I think, Joe, to your point, in that case, if a person is saying, can I book this room? I have an interview, is different than John Deere saying, can we book this room? We have 5 interviews. And I think that's clear, that would be clear for, probably be clear for the staff.
Yeah, the other sticking point on this that's kind of always a tough part is the current policy states that under number four. Yeah, number 4 in the current policy says the general public must be eligible to attend without charge any meetings held in the library meeting rooms. So that means if you are doing a job interview, our policy currently says anyone that comes into the library can come in and join in on that. And they can come in and they can sit. If it's a Girl Scout group that's meeting, anybody can come into that and use the meeting room.
I don't think that's,
Where are you reading that in number 4? Or maybe I don't-
It's on
open
the
room.
current
yeah.
policy.
Black.
And that's pretty standard for libraries, but I think that's something that we might want to do some more research on and clarify. What other libraries.
I still don't see it.
Where is it?
It's the one
It's
that's
under, it's underneath the new number 7.
I don't see what you.
It's all crossed out.
Let's see.
Right here, is it?
Oh, down at the bottom, this 4, not that 4.
Yeah, the red line was quite messy.
It is. That's why we included a clean copy, so you can see both versions.
Yes. Let's see.
All of this is what he's going through.
But all of this has been removed.
Right, and he's saying that's why.
Okay.
It says there's no fee to use the meeting rooms for nonprofit and not-for-profit groups or organizations that are free and open to the public. Well, the Girl Scouts are not free and open to the public. So that may be, I don't know if this got changed, but the Girl Scout, I mean, you have to pay a fee to be a Girl Scout. You have to pay a fee to be in, so it's sort of, I don't know if that's, I don't think the meetings have to be open to the public. There's no fee for not-for-profit groups and organizations free and open to the public, which would be probably a very limited number. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not that every meeting that's held in this room, that people didn't pay for the room are open to the public. The definition is tied to the people using it or the organization. I think, that's what I'm reading. I don't think that means that that organizations are free and open to the public, but they're an org. They're not-for-profits that have meetings that aren't open to the public, right? Correct?
I'm reading it as they won't be charged to attend that meeting in that room. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, and I'm wondering the difference between nonprofit and not-for-profit.
Yeah.
That feels redundant to me.
It's pretty much the same.
I mean, when I studied for my CPA, we use those words interchangeably, so wondering.
I think they were I think the fact that they don't have to be a 501c3 organization. There are a lot of neighborhood groups that aren't 501c3s, but they're groups.
And I believe that's why we have that language, is to specify the difference between.
But I think you can just use nonprofit or not-for-profit.
We're trying to make sure it's all encompassing, so if it is like a neighborhood group, that they're not a nonprofit, they're just
Yeah.
just affiliation,
Like a book club.
but yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Not-for-profit indicates that some of them are profitable, whereas non-profit,
No, not-for-profit is usually what you call registered 501c3s or 50, whatever the other. But I don't know. I
Well,
agree.
501c3 is a charity
Right,
for IRS rules. But there are groups, for example, political groups
Right.
are not for profit.
right.
But
they may be
they,
profitable.
but they
Yeah.
don't, but they're not charities.
They have a different 501 allocation, right?
That's what I was
Right.
trying to.
Under IRS rules. And so
Right.
I just think you need to distinguish between, is the entity running itself for profit or not? That is the distinction. And so the Girl Scouts would be a not-for-profit. A neighborhood group would be a not-for-profit. Anybody basically, other than somebody who's trying to make money, is a not-for-profit.
I remember a business person saying that they were a nonprofit organization. That wasn't the way we planned it, but that's how it's turned out.
I lost.
Yeah, maybe not-for-profit is better than non-profit in that case.
I have a question. So given 6 and D under 7, where money is collected through sales or donations, as a point where a charge would be incurred, can the Girl Scouts open a meeting, take up a meeting room and sell cookies?
Yeah, so that's a good question. We would not, generally, like if let's say a Girl Scout group is meeting here every Tuesday, we would let them come in and use the space. If they were doing a popcorn sale, or I guess Girl Scout cookie sale, sorry, I was thinking Boy Scouts. If they do a Girl Scout cookie sale, then that would be, fall under this 7 category. Otherwise, it wouldn't be, we'd consider them a not-for-profit.
Okay, so they could not So,
So they can come and meet, that would be fine. If they're gonna sell cookies, then they have to pay.
just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify that.
Mhm.
Which is good, it's good to have all these conversations, because we want it as clear as we possibly can for not only the public, but for our staff.
Sure.
Because they're gonna be on the front lines as the gatekeepers for this and determining whether it is profit or not profit. And these kind of little subtle differences, or if it's an organization that requires dues, are they suddenly now a profit or not?
Okay. Anything else? Last call?
I had a question.
Oh, yes, Amanda,
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry.
I forgot
No, that's all right. On number 3, I just don't really understand the last sentence. So they're talking about there's a limit of 2 bookings per month per group. You can have same-day requests, and then there are unlimited bookings within the upcoming 30-day period. I don't understand that sentence.
That's a really good question, and that's something I had to seek out clarification on too, because the way it is phrased is somewhat confusing. But essentially what our software will allow is people to book out up to 90 days in advance. And what we found is if we have certain groups that are using the meeting space, they will consistently book in advance for their meeting 2 months from now or 3 months from now. And then we're trying to make it equitable for everybody so that that group doesn't book it out so nobody else can use it. But then if it's coming up within the next 30 days, it's not an ongoing recurring meeting. I don't know if I clarified if that makes sense or not.
So they can't book out the whole year at one shot.
Yeah, we're trying to make it so that everybody has a fair shot at using the rooms. And this is the system we've come up with, is because what the pattern usually is, they'll say, okay, we're meeting every Thursday for the next, for the rest of the year, and they'll want to book out that space. We'll allow them up to 90 days, but they're not coming back in and within that 30, the closest 30 days where they're going to be occurring. So we feel like we're letting everybody have an opportunity to book out in advance, and then other people can come back in and fill in the gaps after that. I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes no
Maybe
sense.
Maybe Lexi can clarify a little bit.
Oh, if you want to clarify before I make the comment.
It's a little confusing. I'm not sure if I can explain it any better, but basically, yeah, just making sure that like groups who want to meet routinely aren't taking up all of our available spots, so they can book out that 90 days ahead. But then by the time it gets to that 30-day window, if we still have spaces open, we don't want to just say no for the sake of saying no and leaving the rooms not booked. So then it's kind of a free for all. Anybody's allowed to make those extra bookings if they want, as long as it's in that next 30 days. I don't know if that was any better. I'm so sorry.
It doesn't, they're 2 completely different things, and there are unlimited bookings within the upcoming 30-day period, doesn't have anything to do. So I'm an organization, and I want to book every Thursday. So I can book every Thursday up to the next 90 days, correct? I can book every Thursday, no, I can book every other Thursday up to the 3 months.
Yep.
So, okay, so
And then within the 30 days.
but within
you
the
can
30
get
days, I
your
could book another one if nobody's booked in that one, even though I already have booked 2.
Yep.
Okay, but I don't know how you explain that, because it's. Without all your like.
Laura?
I guess while we're having this really robust conversation about this policy, which I think is really beneficial, I kind of want to raise the question, do we really want to restrict that? And I guess I'm thinking from my experience with not-for-profits, it's an impediment to book at the library if we know we can't. Like, if my group meets once a month, and I want to book once a month for the whole year, August through May, and we can't commit to, we know we're gonna be able to get August to May this Thursday, then other groups that I've been involved in have been inclined to look elsewhere, because we can't be changing our location on our members. So I guess I would ask, I know that we wanna be equitable to all, but is there a different way that we could limit it to allow, a group to book, we meet through the calendar year or the school year, or whatever it is, and book out?
Those concerns are 100% valid. The primary reason we don't do that is for library programming. Because so much of our programs take place in the rooms, and we're generally planning about 90 days out in advance plus. There's no way we're gonna be able to plan 6 months from now effectively and make sure that, because then we're competing with the public
Right.
for the space that we need
Yeah.
for primary library
I
purpose.
think anybody told that wouldn't understand.
Yeah. that
Yeah,
makes
but
sense.
it's unfortunate, and I wish we had more meeting space, and that wouldn't be an issue, or more dedicated program space, or if we had more space, then we wouldn't run into those conflicts.
See,
And
I
that's what
can't book
is,
it
is a
for board
conflict.
meetings. I can't book it for board
Correct.
meetings. I can't, because I can't jerk people around either. So I can't. It's not, and I don't like book, I have no place downtown to have my board meeting except in a city hall, which is a terrible place to have. There's no place for me to go. I don't know if there's anybody else like that, but.
Well, some of the other alder are using Eastern.
Yeah, but that's
But
in
they're
their ward.
changing
Yeah,
in
that's
their
their ward, right,
Would
so.
Maine work on Mondays?
Yeah, it would. It would work on Mondays for me, but, yeah, but I can't, I'm just explaining, I don't think I should be treated special. I'm just explaining the same thing Laura is explaining, I think.
Yeah.
So it's, it's,
I'm just wondering if we have to keep it that way because of the programming through the library, if there's a clearer way to state that than the last sentence, just because I think that is going to breed confusion. I don't know. I don't know that if, obviously I'm not going to be the one to come up with it because I was confused just listening to the clarification, but I don't know if there is, if anyone's able to come up with something. I think that would be helpful. And I also had a question about, it looks like now it says you can have same day, up to same day booking if it's available. But then it also says you have to cancel within 24 hours. So I just don't know if you're gonna, I'm sure it's not gonna happen that often, but what happens, I mean, I guess nothing if you don't cancel within 24 hours. It's just inconvenient to you guys. Then if you do it repeatedly, you're gonna not be able to use the room anymore. But if you're allowed to do it the same day, then requiring 24 hours for a cancellation might be kind of, contra, and I'm losing my words here. It might just conflict with that.
That's definitely the lawyer in you. That makes sense. Because it would be in conflict. In practical application, we don't see anybody showing up that day saying they want to reserve the room and then telling us, no, they don't want to reserve the room and cancel.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Next item on the agenda is president's comments, and I don't have any today. Next item is board training. Casey, are you ready?
I let's see. If I can get closer to everyone. You can hear me? Hi,
Hello.
my name's Casey Shipley, and I'm the Office and Facilities Manager for anybody who doesn't know that already. I've been in this position for 8.5 years. And before that, I was the administrative assistant in the office, so, and that was for 10 years before that. And before that, I've only ever worked at the library, so this is home. I wanted to tell you a little bit about who we are in the group I'm covering today. We have an administrative assistant, part-time position that is currently vacant, but we're seeking, we're doing interviews right now, so that's exciting. We have a van driver, and that is Nick. He typically works from 11 to 3, Monday through Friday, and takes things from this building to the other buildings, picks up Heidi book drops, empties those 3 days a week, and gets it right back to here and takes care of us that way. I typically work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday on weekdays. And our facility staff at Maine is our full-time library caretaker, and that's Jim. He works 6 to 2:30 weekdays. My Therese works part-time in the mornings from 6 to 10 on weekdays. And Ethan is our second part-time assistant caretaker. We do share him with Fairmount now for a few hours a week on Wednesday since we're no longer open evenings. But he's typically here Monday and then covers Thursday and Friday or Saturday, depending on the week. We have a 2-week rotation. And so those folks are primarily custodial
jobs, and light maintenance, things like that. So on to the key library office tasks that we perform in the office. The part-time administrative assistant, they reconcile all the cash coming in from the cash registers of the 3 buildings. Those all get routed to Maine, and that person gets those bags back into like startup condition, takes all the checks and the charges out and gets the change in that they want for those service points. They also handle the coin up and receipts from the buildings and empty those at Maine. Friends book sale proceeds also come to the office, and then we handle deposits for them twice a month. My position deposits the funds twice weekly to the city, and we bill the Friends for reimbursement and other partners that we might partner with, like QC Beats, Bettendorf Public Library, St. Ambrose, we bill them back for things like that. We create requisition requests to pay the bills. Checks are issued through the city. We also buy things with purchase cards, credit cards, and those are reconciled through that position to either the administrative assistant attaches invoices and reconciles, and I approve, or I do my own cards, and then those are approved by a different person. We order and do inventory of office and library processing supplies. Primarily, the administrative assistant takes internal orders from staff, places orders with contractors. It could be things like general office supplies, library processing supplies, such as barcodes, all the stickers you see on books, laminating rolls for protecting the covers. They also monitor what's on inventory in the storeroom. And that's it for those. Deliver materials between buildings. I kind of covered that. The van driver takes care of that. Filling in for the van driver, we have our full-time caretaker here and our 3 full-time assistant caretakers that work at the branches. We also do reports and statistics compilation in the office. Monthly statistics, you guys see many of them in your monthly report. And then there are a bunch more that we do too that the state library needs, and Lexi heads up that report gathering. And about this time of year, we'll start for the FY23 report for last year. We do budget planning. The whole administrative team takes care of that, and we'll be working on next year's budget starting right now with the budget planning that you guys approved today. We also, monthly library board meetings. Jeff meets with Steve typically the week before the board meeting. The agenda comes out of that, and we get that on the city's website, posted next to the front door, 24 hours in advance at least, just so the public knows we're having a meeting and they're welcome to come. They don't join us very often, but we're ready for them if they ever come over. The recordings for the meetings are uploaded to the city's website or YouTube channel, and I send those over to the folks at the city who take care of that part. I supervise the library staff that work in the office, whether that's day-to-day contact, doing the annual performance appraisal. We have kind of a timeline where we set goals and we have check-in meetings, and then we do annual performance evaluations. Key facilities tasks, we do our best to create a safe, welcoming atmosphere for patrons and staff by providing a clean and inviting building to visit, keeping the grounds in good order, provide a safe environment for patrons to visit. We have global security services here. They're here 40 hours of the 53 and a half that we are open, so that's a pretty good range. And that's every other Saturday. Our part-time assistant caretaker works and alternates with that guard, just so they don't have to work every Saturday. We create or contract with snow and mowing services, and But there's still some snow removal that our staff takes care of around the building that they can't quite get to. Inside the exit doors and things like that. Our library caretaker orders cleaning and restroom supplies to make sure we always have good stock on hand. And they also, although part-timers and full-timers assist with caretaker coverage at the other branches. The maintenance of the buildings, library staff performs minor building projects and repair projects, but for larger building repair projects, we can contact city facilities maintenance. They put us in touch with their folks, and if they can't fix it, they have contracts for heating and plumbing, electrical services. So we bring in the team at that point, but they're always happy and willing to help us out. And this weekend, they helped with some plumbing issues we had from our water shut off on Friday, so. Capital improvement projects are often related to facilities. Those big ticket items like new carpeting, roofing, updating HVAC systems. We try to stay ahead of those as best we can and get those on capital projects. Our staff will take care of painting touch-ups, carpet cleaning, spot cleaning, window washing. Light window washing, we do hire that out 4 times a year to get all the windows. And then I also supervise the staff that work at our facilities. And again, same, day-to-day contact and evaluations, goal setting, and all that stuff. So that's just kind of a quick overview of that office and facilities land that I have the pleasure of doing every day I come to work.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you.
Any questions?
What do you do in your spare time?
Yeah.
I like to read, imagine.
Oh, there you go.
I should work in the wrong place for that.
I don't have time to do it here, that's for sure.
Steve, one thing I do just want to pass on,
Yes.
obviously, Casey and her team do an incredible job of maintaining wonderful facilities. They're always prompt and they do an amazing job. But Casey really gets things done. She knows she liaisons with the city. She knows how to do everything, and she's thoroughly committed. She'll respond to alarms in the middle of the night, and if there's a holiday closure, she'll come in and empty the book drops to make sure that our customer services team isn't overwhelmed when they come in the next day, and just does a ton to keep the library operational and moving forward. It's just an incredible asset to the organization.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you, Casey.
Go back to my other job.
Okay, well, anyway, thank you everyone for your time. Just wanted to mention that the discussion we had was great, as Jeff mentioned, because it's good to ferret out all these little issues that might come up, because I think it's very important as kind of things in library land are changing as far as people challenging different things, not only books, but other things, that we have our policies as close to the point as we can, and know where and find all of those things that may be inconsistent between this paragraph and that paragraph, just so that our policies, are less likely to be able someone be able to use them against us in the future, like, well, their policy doesn't say that or something, and having good discussion about those things helps improve that situation. So thank you for that. Thank you for your extra time today. Appreciate that. And unless there's anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, second.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Oh, sorry, I gave you enough time. Thank you, Amanda.
Bye, thank you.
Yeah.